Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brynel Talks Law podcast, where we explore careers in law, legal education, and the journeys behind the professionals shaping the future of the legal profession. So today's guest is someone who actually appeared on the podcast before, all the way back in season 2 in 2021, and I'm really pleased to welcome her back. So let's talk about who she is. Millie Grundy is a law lecturer at CILEx Law School, an independent practice rights assessor at CILEx Regulation, and the founder of Telford Tutoring Services, where she supports students through personalised academic tutoring. Millie's career spans legal practice, regulation, and education, and she is passionate about supporting aspiring legal professionals to develop and create the skills and confidence needed for successful career. So, Millie, it's great to have you back on the podcast. How are you feeling today?
It's lovely to be back as well. I can't believe how long it's been since the last one, but I'm feeling good. It's been a long time, so a lot's happened in that time, but it's lovely to be back.
Excellent, Millie. Yes, I can imagine that a lot must have happened, and I'm really excited to really talk about that and delve into your amazing journey. So, Millie, the last time you joined the podcast was in 2021. So, since
Yeah.
then, your career has continued to develop across teaching, regulation, and tutoring. How has your journey evolved over the last few years?
Yeah, really, really good question with a lot of different layers in it. So,
Mm.
as you are aware, I started back when we first spoke as a trainee. So, I was a paralegal and then I moved into becoming a trainee solicitor. Went down the traditional legal route. So, doing the training contract, really enjoyed it. But there was just a little niggle at the back of my brain, and I always thought I really loved teaching. I used to do some teaching in my undergrad, and then I went out to Thailand to teach. And there was just this little spark in my heart thinking I would really enjoy teaching law. I love law and I love helping other people. The job at CILEx Law School came about, and I thought let's go for it. So before I joined CILEx Law, I qualified as a solicitor in family law in the West Midlands. Absolutely loved it. I love all things family law, from the finances to the children law. But what I was missing was that teaching aspect. I really love helping others and inspiring others to become really great lawyers. I had a really great chat when I was in law school with one of my
Hmm.
tutors, and I thought, I think I could do that job one day. So doing all of the legal training helped me, because you need to know all things about the law before you go and teach others.
Yeah.
But actually, it was great to then get the opportunity at CILEx Law School to then lecture law, really.
Yeah.
Going into the other two areas,
Hmm.
so the regulatory area, so the assessing,
Hmm.
that came kind of as a springboard from my lecturing. Late last year, I got the opportunity to become an assessor for the practice rights, and it's a really great opportunity to showcase
Hmm.
what I know, because I specialised in family law, and then also help others in the process of obtaining their practice rights and ensuring that they obviously are able to then go and litigate in the
Hmm.
courts in England and Wales. So it was a great privilege to do that job, and it's really, really been a great experience so far with that. So I'm really enjoying that, even though that was only late last year that I began that job. You've got to take your opportunities in life. Was so
Yeah.
obviously when we spoke last, this wasn't even an idea in my mind, but actually I thought I really enjoy helping other people. And
Yeah.
what's better than, and you may be the same, what is better building people's confidence than
Mm.
giving them knowledge and assisting them
Yeah.
getting on with their career goals. And in a way, your podcast does the same thing. You're
Mm.
inspiring other people to go
Yeah.
and get their dream job and go down that legal route. And I think that's why it's a credit to be on today. So I'm really thankful for that. I think the tutoring, it came about because I thought I would be able to help other people. And
Hmm.
I came from a working class background. And I think when you think of tutoring, you think of it being quite expensive and maybe out of reach sometimes for working class backgrounds when I was younger. However, I've made it so that it's accessible both online and in person, and trying to bridge that gap so that I can give back to students who need it and want to aspire to become lawyers.
Amazing. I think that's really interesting to hear, Millie. It's truly great to hear, how you have developed and continue to really inspire and impact others. Your experience has clearly and evidently, expanded across both education and regulation, especially having a legal undertone. Having these different perspectives gives you a really well-rounded understanding of the profession. It's about helping people and inspiring them using what you've got, as you said, equipping them with the knowledge. Indeed, the whole mantra of this podcast is pivot and don't panic. It's about helping my listeners navigate through their terrains. It can be challenges. It can be the first in their family to go to university. And it's really about navigating through their personal lived experiences to get to their careers. And that's what I
Absolutely.
actually do as well. I actually
Yeah.
volunteer for a CIC, which is started by my dad, Gilbert Pommel, and it's called Logos West Midlands CIC. And it's all about helping those from socio-economically disadvantaged backgrounds and getting them into where they want to be. So again, Millie, it's really great how you've not grown and developed in the legal sphere, but you've developed in terms of giving back to the community, equipping them with all the soft skills of communication. So it's great to have you back on the podcast because you do definitely resonate with the aims of what we're doing here to inspire the next generation and people who are still developing to get to their destinations. And wow, Thailand, how was that?
Oh, I absolutely loved. Have you ever been to Thailand? You need to go.
Oh,
It was amazing. That sparked that undertone of helping other people because
yes.
there we went from primary schools to secondary schools, and some of the children, we had to teach them how to brush their teeth, for example. And for
Mm,
me, giving back to give knowledge to people of how to do something is a real power. And you probably resonate that with your
mm,
father's
mm,
background as well from what you've said, the voluntary opportunities you've had from him. And I
yeah.
think it's great to go and volunteer. When I was in my undergrad, I thought, you know what, I would love to do that. So
Mm,
I volunteered and taught English there, and I absolutely loved it. There was something in me that thought, I love law and I love teaching and helping others. So let's merge them together. So I think we resonate quite closely in that because
yeah.
you seem very inspired to help people as well from, like you said, different socioeconomic backgrounds. And that's my driving force. Me and
Mm,
my sister were the first in our family to go to university. So we were the first generation. I didn't know anybody in law. I know we're going on to this a little bit later, but
mm.
working is key. But I will,
It's something that I've personally done. I'm sure that my listeners will know, but for those who are new, I've run Faith Brynel's Insight CIC for the last 6 years, and it came about in my first year at King's College London. And it's really about helping those aged 16 to 25 getting into careers, really pathways to success. And so it's all about creating them that journey, whatever it might be. It might be brushing their teeth, it might be networking, it might be building their confidence, it might even be writing skills, whatever it is. It really helps them to get set on that path to success. As you said, it's your driving force. I think that is so necessary. But I do actually want to segue into the networking. What do you think is the value of networking based on your own personal experience?
I think networking is arguably one of the most important skills you need
Mhm,
as a trainee, as an apprentice, as somebody who's aspiring to be a lawyer, no matter what pathway you're going down, whether that's barrister, solicitor, CILEx lawyer, however
mhm,
it is, it's super important because what networking gives you is the opportunity to be in a room, whether that's
mhm,
virtually or in person, with people who you're aspiring to be like. So that means that you can gain insight into what the life of a lawyer looks like, what skills and experiences they may give you. They may give you tips on what to
mhm,
do, what opportunities are coming up in their firms, for example, what they look for in an aspiring lawyer. So it's all about confidence. I went into
mhm,
rooms
mhm,
when I was an undergraduate non-law student at the University of Liverpool, and I
mhm,
thought I really want to go into law. And I think we touched upon this the last time we spoke. It was really important. I went to these legal networking events because putting
mhm,
myself out there actually got me really great connections on LinkedIn, which then springboarded opportunities for work. I think they really appreciated me going over and speaking to them and explaining that I was a non-law student, didn't know anybody in law, but what opportunities are available to me if I'm keen and hungry to go and get it. And they thought,
Yeah.
let's give us some opportunities. So I got some really great work experience by just asking. And I think sometimes
Yes.
really convoluted and complex process, but sometimes you got to ask. And if you don't ask, you don't get. I
You
always
don't
say
get,
that
yeah.
opportunities you don't ask about. So they may say, no, there's no opportunities there. But if you ask 100 people, at least
Mm.
one of them is
We'll say
going to say,
yes, yeah.
actually, come and shadow me in court, or come and do
Mhm.
some work experience at the solicitors I work at, or come and sit behind me in the open court, for example. I did that a lot in my undergrad because it was
Mm,
something
mm,
that the public could do. So I would sit in the magistrate's court for days and just absorb. It's really important when you're at these networking events, you absorb everything around you. And just even getting to the networking event is an achievement in itself. I've always had this imposter syndrome
mhm,
situation, and a lot of lawyers I speak to have had it. And sometimes you feel like, should I be in this room? Absolutely, you should be in that room, because if you're not there aspiring the next generation, then who is going to? So why not us? I'm a big believer in networking. So the
mhm,
one thing I always say to people, I get a lot of messages on LinkedIn
mm,
from aspiring lawyers, and I always say to them, get yourself out there, volunteer, take opportunities, network. It's
mhm.
super, super important.
Yeah, 100%, Millie. I think networking is the bedrock of being successful. I think you've got to put yourself out there. And I know it can be daunting for some people if they haven't had hitherto experiences. But as Millie said, it's really about just trying to take one step at a time, and just working, on it for you. As Millie said, it might just be just getting to an event, just signing up. But really, your success is your success. And, it's based on your own experiences. And I can definitely resonate. And that's a key word we're using in today's podcast episode, because I was a non-law student. I read politics at King's College London, and I wasn't even allowed to join legal debating because it was reserved for the law school. So what I did instead, I joined a debating club called the King's College London United Nations Association, and that gave me some exposure to what advocacy is. So even if you can't do everything you want to do, just do what you can, and that will contribute to your journey. Because in that experience, I was able to win the Most Improved Award, hone in my advocacy, build my confidence. And so that was also another point of networking, because in the competitions, in the sessions, you're meeting new people. And I think that's what networking is. You've got to advocate for yourself. So I think anybody who's out there, you may not, see yourself as confident. That's okay, because confidence grows. Everything can be harnessed. It can be developed. And I think that is what makes you successful, when you are navigating through your terrain, navigating through your experiences, and you still come out the other side. That is resilience. So yeah, I think that was a really, really essential and beneficial, discussion on the relevance and the importance of networking. And as Millie said, being on LinkedIn is it's the world's biggest networking platform. So Millie, I'm coming back to you. What would you say is the number one tip for somebody who hasn't got a LinkedIn, or they haven't got many connections? What is the number one tip you'd give them to try and leverage their existing skill set to try and network now on LinkedIn?
Really good question. And I think it's something that I get asked a lot from students. Get a LinkedIn account. It's free. So the first thing that I did when I went to university is I got a LinkedIn account, and people used to say,
Mhm,
because I can meet so many lawyers and successful people and inspirational people through an online network. How amazing is that? It's at
mm,
the touch of your fingertips. It's free. And even if you don't know that person, you can connect with them, drop them a message and say, I'm Millie. I'm a aspiring lawyer, for example. This is what I would do. How can I grow my CV? How can I develop to get that training contract, for example, or stand out in paralegal applications, which is what I was doing at the time? What is it that I can do to stand out? And I think that's
mhm,
really important, because these people weren't accessible to me in my everyday life. I didn't have anybody around me that did law.
mhm.
I
Yep.
didn't know anybody who had ever qualified as a lawyer. So it was really important to put myself out there. I would say make sure you'd post it. So a lot of the time I would do a lot of volunteering opportunities, which is, Faith, you may have done the same as well. I would
Yeah.
volunteer a lot. So a charity close to my heart was a local project called Christmas Smile. And
Mhm.
essentially would go over Christmas period and would wrap presents and shoe boxes for local children who
Mm,
wouldn't
mm,
have presents otherwise. And for me, it's about giving back, chasing that online. I always say LinkedIn is an online CV. Everybody
mm,
can see that, whether it's a partner at a firm, one of your colleagues at your firm, maybe it's a firm that are looking at you and thinking, oh, okay, you've applied for
mm.
a specific role in the law firm. It's really important that you're putting your best self out there because it is an online CV. So I
True.
would say get a LinkedIn account, post regularly, and be confident. It's quite a
Mm.
daunting thing, and you may resonate with this as well as we're it's a chocolate today. Resonate. When I first started out, I it was very daunting for me to put myself out there and post
Mm,
quite content heavy posts and put it out
mm,
there, and actually the engagement was incredible. So I always say to people, get a LinkedIn account. That is a lot of sixth formers that I speak to.
mm.
So they're navigating this world at a very early stage. I say to them, have a little look at some of maybe my previous posts. You don't have to copy it, but just for
Mm,
inspiration, you see
yeah.
what the stuff I did. I studied my master's in law at the University of Law in COVID. So all
Mm.
opportunities were remote. It was fortunate because I obtained a lot of work experience
Yeah,
in my
you would.
bedroom. So it was amazing. That's the one thing I would say. Put yourself out there. It's
Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree with the fact that LinkedIn is an online CV and potential recruiters, potential colleagues and firms and chambers are looking at your CV. In fact, when I was applying for jobs, one of the main questions was, what is your LinkedIn URL? Because they want to delve into who you are. They want to do some due diligence and find out, hang on, is this person a right fit for our firm or chambers? Has this person got the necessary prerequisite experience needed? And I think, as Millie said as well, really utilizing your university's employability area. I'm a University of Law ambassador. I would use the University of Law's employability services because right now I'm doing my law master's conversion at the University of Law with plans to start the bar in September. So I always say to them, look, utilize University of Law's employability. There's a reason why they're so highly regarded. Utilize the pro bono experiences, utilize the shadowing, get mini peopleages, get vacation schemes, do what you can. You've got to use what you've got and you've got to use it to be a stepping stone. And I like the term that you used in terms of it's that online CV. It really is. And even if sometimes your LinkedIn is in the room before you are. So your LinkedIn has to advocate for you before you even have an opportunity. And that's the difference between if they're going to, call you for an interview or not. It's your online presence. And as Millie said, yes, it can be daunting to post online. When I started LinkedIn in 2020, I had 40 connections. Now I've got almost 3,000. So I had to push myself out of my own comfort zone and say, come on, Faith, get yourself out there. And that's how I found podcast guests. That's how I met Millie here. If I hadn't reached out to you in 2021 and said, do you want to come on the podcast? We wouldn't even be here now. So
yeah,
you've got to utilize what you've got. But yes, I think this has been a very, very interesting episode. Thank you for being honest about something that you struggle with of imposter syndrome. I think a lot of listeners can, relate to that. So what would you say if there was a one top tip for somebody if they're suffering from imposter syndrome? How can they really navigate through it?
Yeah, I think I'm really honest and raw about it because I know a lot of people suffer with it in silence, and I think it's not something
Yes.
you need to be shy about. It's a real thing and it's a real
Mm,
feeling. And I think it's something that I'm so passionate about speaking about because law is a very intimidating career. And I think even if you're very confident, like myself and Faith, sometimes that doesn't mean that I'm not suffering. I can only talk for myself, but with imposter
mhm,
syndrome. So just to cover essentially my thought on it and my top tip. Imposter
mm,
syndrome is, let's say you walk into a room and you feel like you don't belong there. And I think when you're in your early stages of your career, it can be very intimidating and overwhelming when you're going to these events or you're going into court or you're networking with people and they have a lot more experience. That is
mm,
okay. And my top tip would be ride the wave, ride that wave of feeling like an imposter because actually a lot more people in that room will be feeling the same. And I think for me, it's about resilience, build that
mm.
resilience, confidence through doing it, like Faith touched upon earlier. Big part of even attending a networking event is just getting to the event itself. So for me, I would always psych myself up and think, right, Millie, you've got to do this because you're building your confidence, you're building your resilience just by doing. So in my early early stages of my career, for example, going out and meeting clients or going to court or whatever it is, going and speaking. I do every year, I go to my old school and sixth form
Mhm.
and I go and do a big speech to the sixth formers about my journey into law. And
Mhm.
I think because I've done it so many times now, I've built that confidence. But the first time I did it and I stood in that theatre hall with all of those eyes watching me and thinking, oh my gosh, they're all listening and they really loved it. And they came up to me afterwards and they were like, we really inspired by it.
Mhm.
They didn't know that an hour before I was really nervous to even step into that room. And the one thing I always say to people, ride the wave of
Mhm.
feeling that because it won't last forever. And you build more and more confidence as you go along. It's like anything. The more you do it, the better you'll get. Riding a bike for the first time, everybody falls off. The more you do it, the easier it gets. It's like driving a car. It's the same as a law lecturer, as a
Mhm.
tutor, as a solicitor, all those hats that I've worn. It's about building that experience and building that confidence. So that's why I'm such an open advocate for speaking about
Mhm.
it. I've been to lots of sessions, some amazing sessions on imposter syndrome. And it's amazing when you look around the room at the really experienced people and you think, wow, you feel that too. And it's just about getting all that experience and building your confidence. And I know we've spoken about confidence a lot today, but as an aspiring lawyer, no matter what that is, whether you're like Faye said earlier, you're going to do the bar course, you're doing a
Mhm.
training app, you're doing an apprenticeship with CILEx Law School, for example. No matter what you're doing, it's all about building that knowledge, those skills, that confidence, and eventually it won't feel that scary. The first time you do something, you're always going to be nervous. So I will never forget that first networking event I went to. I'll never forget the first time I went to court and advocated for a client. I'll never forget that first time sitting in that huge theatre room at my old sixth form and thinking, wow, all of these students want to hear my story. How amazing is
Mhm. Yeah.
the more you do something, the better it will get.
Excellent, Millie. That's really such a great piece of advice for my listeners, and I know that they're going to appreciate that. And I to go back to imposter syndrome, I myself have also faced that because being a black aspiring barrister, there's not many black barristers sometimes in certain rooms, and statistically that's also the case. I would say to anybody who doesn't see someone who looks like them, don't worry. And it reminds me of a guest speaker who I interviewed, Caroline Flanagan. I'm going to use her term, so I will put her LinkedIn in the bio. And she said, when you are a black aspiring lawyer or when you are someone from a different background, it could be that you're from a working class background, it could be that you were the first in your family to go to university, whatever makes you different, don't tell yourself you're the only one, be the first one. Don't see the glass as half empty, see it as half full. When you change your perspective, it actually becomes a little bit easier. And going back to what Millie said in terms of ride the wave, stick it out because it might be daunting, you might be anxious, you might be even scared, you might clam up, you might say, you know what, no, I can't do this. But you know what? And, we are laughing here because it is real life. There are
Yeah.
many things you might learn to do, as Millie said, going back to her old school, excellent, amazing. And indeed, when I was running a program at a local school. And we went to Franklin, which is one of the most deprived areas in Birmingham. And we went there to deliver a session. I launched the Inquiring Minds program with King Edward's Ballon Wood. And again, as Millie said, okay, how do I pivot this session now to a group of, when they first came in, they weren't all speaking. I was like, okay, rather than me just talking for 20 minutes, let me change what I'm going to say. I just said, what is your name and one thing about yourself? And it just helped me prepare what I was going to say as well. Don't look at other people thinking they've got it all put together. We all have our challenges, as Millie said. Nobody's perfect. We're all going through things even now. But what we're doing is we are demonstrating resilience because we're pushing through it. But I love what you said in terms of looking at your skill set. What skills do you have to bring to the forefront? I'm going to end this episode now by asking you a very final question. You've mentioned that you came from a non-law background. So what is one piece of advice that you'd want people to take away if they're on an on-law course right now? What can they do to make sure they're readily equipped to go into law?
Really good question. I think when you're coming from a non-law background, like we both have,
Mhm.
it's about those transferable skills. So I use this as a buzzword because it's really important. People think, say, for example, I worked in a cocktail bar when I was doing my master's. in my undergraduate. Now, people might think, well, what skills can you use in a cocktail bar that you can use in a law firm? A lot of
Mhm.
skills, teamwork, fast paced environment, client, high quality client service, communication, leadership, all of these are used as a team leader in a cocktail bar. I moved
Mm.
over when I was applying as a paralegal to my first law firm. Don't cast yourself aside in the sense of I don't have legal experience. Think, okay, like you said, Faith, how can I pivot this situation
Yeah.
to be able to allow people? I always say to people, go and get a part-time job, get that experience. It doesn't have to be a legal job, but that job will give you transferable skills. And that is what a law firm are looking for, or chambers, or wherever you're applying to. They can mold you into what they need you to be as a lawyer, but you need those transferable skills in the first place. I went to an International Women's Day event last week.
Mm.
There was a lady there called Sarah Fowler, and she said something that really resonated with me. And she said, say yes and learn quickly. Now,
Mm.
look, that's anything you can get as a non law student wanting to go into that world. Say
Mhm.
yes and learn quickly, whether that's a part time job in a cafe, whether you're working in a cocktail bar, whether I worked on reception at my school, for example. All of those skills have built me those transferable skills to move into law. They've built me up in a way that I am confident when I go into rooms. I can articulate myself really well, and I can work really well in a team, no matter where you're coming from, whether that's you're going the standard training contract route, you're studying the bar, you're doing an
Mhm.
apprenticeship through CILEx, no matter what you're doing, get transferable skills and the rest will follow.
Excellent, Millie. What a great way to end the episode today. Get transferable skills and the rest will follow. And great that you shared the quote, say yes and learn quickly. It's really important to have those transferable skills. My first job, I was a barista. And one of our episodes that's going to be coming out is from barista to barrister. So do stay tuned for that. Another one of my work experiences was working in Selfridges on Oxford Street. So that was in the Christmas period. I learned how to pivot and not panic, remain calm under pressure, build my soft skills of communication, navigate through conflict, work with new people. All of those skills are necessary, and it can be the foundation of what you do. And thank you very much, Millie, for joining me again on the Faith Brynel Talks Law podcast. It's been great and inspirational to hear about how your career has developed so much since we last spoke, and to learn more about your work in legal education and regulation. Millie hasn't asked me to do this, but I'm going to say anybody who does want legal tutoring, please do head to Telford Tutoring Services. I'll put some links into the bio for you to find out. I believe that you can connect with Millie on LinkedIn as well at Millie Grundy, and I'll put all those links in there as well. So to everyone listening, if you've enjoyed this episode, do leave a review, because we are in 53 countries now, and I want to get into more and more countries. So do leave a review. Do leave a
Amazing.
review.
Amazing.
Do subscribe and share the podcast. We are on YouTube, Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. So do head to those platforms of choice. You can also follow at Faith Brynel Talks Law on TikTok, on Instagram, and you can connect with me at Faith Brynel Pomel on LinkedIn. I know many of you have, so please do continue to do that. So remember, pivot and don't panic. And I will see you all in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye.